3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bourbon Note. I'm Greg.
I'm Ben.
And today, we're drinking bourbon.
You know they can hear your countdown when you come in.
Oh, I know, that's the best part. Everyone enjoys that.
And that's what I do, and 3. You know.
And speaking of drinking bourbon, it's time for me to have a drink.
Yeah, so we have, as you probably saw in the thumbnail, we do have a special guest tonight we're going to get to in just 1 second. Just going to say hi to some folks in the chat. Well, Storytime is in the chat.
Storytime.
And he's also backstage. Sugar Kitty is here. I don't have the soundboard on tonight because audio problems.
Audio.
Steve Joes is here. Steve, we got the samples the other day, so thank you for that.
That is awesome.
Look forward to doing either an unboxing video or we just talked about possibly doing like an unboxing live sometime and then sampling through all those, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Non-bike riding Dave is here. One of these days we're going to find out if Dave rides bike like low-key in his personal life.
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers. Stacy is here. 4 Leaf Whiskey. Like, comment, subscribe. Peter White.
John.
Ryan Frank is in the house. What's going on, buddy?
They get the internet in Buffalo?
John Kranz. Roger Randall. All right. Well, let's get into discussing some Storytime Distillery here with Shane, a.k.a. Lord Schlong himself. Welcome to the show.
There he is.
Cheers.
In the flesh.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And by the way, yeah, absolutely. We're happy to have you here. Real quick, just because we did mess with the mics a little bit before we hopped on here, if one of us is too loud or too quiet, let us know in the chat and we'll address that. But until then, talk amongst yourselves in the chat because we're going to get into the conversation with Shane here.
Yeah.
And he's going to address all of the misinformation that we have flooded the internet with while reviewing these bottles, these fantastic bottles of bourbon.
So, you know, the funny part is it's okay to correct us and say that we said something wrong because, A, that's what we do.
Yeah.
But don't be disappointed next week.
Get it wrong again.
Well, I'm just glad you finally got the letter from my lawyer on the cease and desist with all the misinformation.
Oh, is that what that was? I just assumed it was my monthly bill. I didn't open it. I threw it away. Oh, hey, you know what? Before we get too far into this, let's head over to the other studio here. Shane, we've got a specially designed studio for the Storytime Distillery live stream.
Just for today. Oh, maybe not just
I don't have anything that
definitely
fancy. I don't have no, like...
Well, I would say you've got something more fancy because you've got a gazebo and a pool, and this is just a green screen. So.
Well, but it looks really nice.
Yeah. Tater Dom and 99 Perspectives are here. What's happening?
Yeah. Cheers, everyone.
It sounds like the audio is good. So let's get into it. So just tell us a little bit about kind of how you started up with Storytime, exactly what it is. We've at least got the description right of like how to go subscribe and what bottles are available.
Well, that's the important thing, right?
Right,
Yeah.
Of course. More than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole idea behind Storytime was kind of this culmination of a respect or a love for this community when we were going really through the COVID, right? So everyone was disconnected, and the one thing the bourbon community really did was came together, right? Very amazingly, like just it was quite a thing if you go back and really realize what transpired in that short amount of time, and
yeah.
And so then the passion for whiskey, you know, that we all started getting, I think almost everyone gets into this and they really start soaking in a lot of the history and the stories and everything else. And so one thing I kind of noticed was there was this trend, like especially these new whiskey labels that were coming out or brands even kind of built around these goofy stories that just seemed like way far-fetched. Like it's like they were just running out of good dialogue and they just wanted to market to some people, like my grandpa's recipe was in his boot and he got ran over by a semi and, it's just all kinds of
like Elijah Craig invented bourbon or something ridiculous like that.
Even the big dogs have the wild. Yeah, it's always something like my great-granddaddy's daddy's granddaddy's daddy was baptized in this river in the summer 1842.
Exactly.
And we've been making whiskey with that baptismal river water ever since. And then you find out, it's it's sourced, which there's nothing wrong with, but it's like, okay, don't come at me with that story.
Yeah.
I'd much rather know some stats on the actual bourbon than some nonsense story that isn't true.
Totally true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of interesting real stories out there, and that's what pulls us in.
True
and then
enough.
you get these marketing geniuses just get us all distracted. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, shoot, this community is so good, like it's something that I think is healthy. I think it's something that needs to continue to grow. And so
Absolutely.
why don't we as a community, because I was thinking community, collectively kind of form this organization that then, we're all spending money on whiskey. Why not give some of that back to the community through a nonprofit, which I got set up, but I just never got like the final pieces of it going. And we'll get into that in a minute. But the idea was to kind of self-serve the community and continue to grow it, and then start capturing and creating our own stories, right? And
nice.
So that the next generations can when they come into the whiskey, they hear of the summer of 2020 that kicked off the bourbon boom, right? And all these things that happened, all these relationships that got formed, and I think one of the greatest things you'll hear about from almost everyone who goes to any kind of meetup is it's like you feel like you've known that person forever, right? Like,
yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So to me, that's stuff that's worthy to keep alive and to try and instill in the next generation. So that was kind of the whole premise behind Storytime. Well, then out of that, I was like, okay, well, I don't distill yet. I want to, so that's coming.
Sure.
So I'm going to have to be an NDP, working on getting
Hey, I
that
said
stuff.
that you were NDP once. I
What's
didn't know
that?
the term, but I said
Yeah,
you were NDP once.
Yep.
Greg got one fact right. Broken clock's right twice a day.
That's right. That is
Right,
right.
there you go. Well, what do they say? Every squirrel finds a nut. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
Yep.
But so then, the idea was, well, how do you kind of kick this thing off and really build the vision within the community? And that to me was what the Authors Guild was about. So I created the Authors Guild
Nice.
as a way to provide single barrel offerings in essentially exceptional whiskeys at extremely affordable prices that competes with the best of the whiskeys out there at a fraction of the cost, right? And provide it to the community, specifically this community, to try and enrich it. And then not only that part of it, but as we build the community, then we build a reputation on what we're after, right? What the profiles are, what the palates are. And that gives us that segue into the NDP, so that when ultimately I launch the private labeled whiskey, there's a relationship there, and there's a name that people know and understand where it's coming from and have a connection to.
Gotcha.
So again, that's kind of the whole thing in a nutshell.
Okay. So I have a question for you, but before we get into that, just want to say hi to some more people. Whiskey Wars is here, and by the way, we got a lot of great channels in the chat here.
Absolutely.
So if any mods could drop some links to
Baker Drinks.
Whiskey Wars, Baker Drinks, those bourbon guys. Hey, welcome, fellas. We've never actually spoken with those guys before,
really.
but I do watch your videos, and so we'd love to have you on Whiskey Trivia Night in America sometime.
That'd be awesome.
So
that would be awesome.
send us an email,
Study up.
guys, if you're interested. It's thebourbonnote@gmail.com, so we have your contact information.
Yeah,
and maybe we can work something out. We'd love to have you guys on sometime. Four Leaf Whiskey is here. Bourbon School is here. Got all kinds of folks here. This is great.
Yeah.
So,
AJ.
so Shane, is the ultimate goal, like next step is becoming like a private release on your own, sourcing, maybe not through Jepson's or through Starlight, but just sourcing directly from, like, say, MGP, and then having your own label, and then beyond that, ramping up to distillation?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's, it's all that's in the works. Obviously, when you get into that realm, there's a much different avenue you have to go about things. Cash flow is a much different scenario. Now you're looking at, you've got to outlay, several $100,000 instead of several $1,000s. Buying a single barrel is one thing. Buying 100 barrels is another.
Buying a batch.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
So it's a different scale, and so I started off with this. I had a few guys that were with me. It was Klein from Destination Bourbon. I had Big League Bourbon, Chris Luddig, Bobby from Bourbon Battalion was a part of the group. and Chris Willitzer. You would know him as Wilzerk if you saw him in chat. They were all kind of part of the group. And over that first year, things just started kind of coming apart. I think people were getting busy. Maybe there was some separation of ideas a little bit. I don't think it wasn't volatile per se, but there was a difference in opinions, I think, and direction. So those guys chose to leave because they had, family obligations as well. And so, you know how it is. I mean, this takes a lot of time. You would be shocked at how much time
really?
it takes.
I would imagine, yeah. So where are you located?
I'm in Clover, South Carolina, right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yep.
And so when you go to select barrels, so what's the process of that? You just call the folks so this is the Port Night Rises, and we can turn this label around so we have all the different labels here. So do you just give Jepson's a call and say, if you've sourced a single barrel from MGP that you're finishing in a certain way, I'm interested in that, this, and that? Or what's the process from just having the idea to do a Friday at Fred's,
right,
to actually getting it?
Those go through retail, right? So you cannot get away from the 3-tier system. All right. So if you try, the hooks will get you and you will pay. Word of warning to anyone who tries, don't.
Yeah.
The government doesn't play when they want their tax money. I'll just tell you that. They come and get it. No problem.
And so the 3-tier system being the distillation, like the manufacturer, distributor down to liquor store.
Yeah. So it's manufacturer, distributor, retailer. Has to go through that. There's taxation at all those levels, and the government watches that very closely, right? So, what I did is I was able to, through Chris Luddig, build a relationship with a guy by the name of Mon in Wisconsin. He has a couple stores up there, and he was and has been extremely helpful in getting connections with the industry. And then from that, we built other connections. So, for instance, the Starlight was through Amon. Actually, everything we've done has actually gone through Amon's retail side of the business. And that's how we're able to get it for everyone. The next releases are going to be a little different. They're going to go through a different channel. But there are some changes
so that would
coming.
Be like if we went to our favorite liquor store and they had a barrel from Jepson's, for example, come in. They said, "Hey, do you want to do a bourbon note pick through the store?"
Yep.
And we went in there, selected the barrel, agreed to it. We can put the cool sticker on it and make something up, and then so these are available. Are they at retail stores then as well, or just through?
No, so that's the
retailer
one difference. Yeah, so the way we work it with the Authors Guild is we commit to buying the whole barrel, right?
Okay.
So
yeah,
and stores are a lot more prone to working with you when you do that because they don't have to risk sitting on any stock or you going and picking a shitty bottle and nobody buying it. So you assume all the risk. But that also means we get all the reward when we get bottles like Friday at Fred's, right? That bottle, there was 6 different cognac finish barrels at the time that I picked that one. I will tell you that one's head and shoulders above the other 5. And it wasn't even close. It was on a whole nother plane. And I will tell you that barrel specifically produced so many cases, I couldn't even take them all. So there's going to be some cases of it showing up in the state of Wisconsin at a few stores here and there, but it'll be very limited. I think there's only like 8 or 10 cases that I just couldn't take. So part of that, is now with me doing it through Wisconsin, then I have to go up there and pick it all up and drive it all back, and which is a bit of an expense and a couple days that you don't get back. So that's why it's kind of channels are going to change a little bit. But then we have
right next door to Wisconsin, so we're happy to go just pick it up for you, and we'll just
hey,
it's all paid for in advance, right?
that's right. That's right. Then we have the situation like what we did with Backbone Bourbon, where I actually created a label and a bottle marketing concept called Old Dragon Bones. And
so I've heard of that, and I've heard it's fantastic. Was that a rye?
It is. You want to grab the bottle real quick? I can show you if you want.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
Just a second.
He's just doing this to tease me because he knows I want one.
Because I saw there was an image of it on the website, and I've seen other channels talk about it.
Yeah.
And say it's a fantastic rye. This stuff is wonderful. This has such a good grapey note to it. For those of you who are not members of the Authors Guild, I would highly recommend, because Shane, like you were saying at the beginning, it's like getting these bottles, like the rumors were correct that this Friday at Fred's absolutely competes with Joseph Magnus Cigar Bash.
Really, really does.
I don't know if you saw our review of the Joseph Magnus, but we did bring this in, and it was almost indistinguishable.
Yeah, I think so.
They were just, and the Joseph Magnus is a $200 bottle. This one is $65.
Something like that, yeah.
You know, and with the $10 monthly, you know, and so, I mean, you could go 2 years of paying the monthly fee and buy one bottle of this and still get your money's worth as far as taste, you know, going up against the Joseph Magnus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hazmat.
So this is
not quite
the old Dragon Bones.
Okay.
So this is
That's different than the one.
What's that?
Yeah, that's different than one that you're talking about on Facebook right now. That's not out yet.
Correct.
Okay, that's okay. We won't.
This
I'll leave
one
that
was
alone.
a limited release. It actually ended up going hazmat. It was 147.2 proof.
Wow.
Nice.
So Chris Ludwig did the artwork. You know, we kind of came up with a design. I came up with a skull design. One thing you can see here is there's a special edition. We had these little dragon skulls made.
Oh, nice.
Anyway.
That's awesome.
So anyway,
Can we go, let me put you full screen here real quick.
Yeah, there you go.
okay.
How do I make...
I think just click
There
on
we go.
him. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, let's put you full screen and hold the bottle up again if you don't mind. And then, oh yeah, that dragon skull is badass.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That looks really cool.
So this was labeled to the TTB. It is now a branded whiskey that Backbone has all rights to release. But we're working in conjunction. Nolan Smith, the owner of Backbone, and I have a pretty unique relationship. It's very, very good. Like we work together very well. He's very excited about what we did. You know, I know I'm not a big fan of secondary, but I know one of these bottles showed up on Unicorn Auctions and sold for like $650.
Wow.
So there was, I mean, that it had an impact. It had a reputation, right? People knew about it. So that's exciting.
So is that maybe a potential, like something down the road that you want to make as an actual one of your independent brands?
Yeah, I will always be doing that with Backbone. And, you know, there's rumors that there's another old Canadian rye coming soon. I keep hearing these stories about a Spanish dragon, and I'm thinking it's probably related to this. I'm not 100% sure. But I will tell you that, yes, the plan is to have more of these come. I don't know that they're all going to be hazmat. I know the next one is really going to be a little bit older. It's going to be an 18-year-old whiskey, I think. 18-year-old rye.
That's amazing.
And this one's double oaked essentially.
Okay.
The next one's going to be sherry finished.
18-year sherry finished
Canadian rye.
And it's
At
coming
cask
in at
strength?
134 proof.
Yeah, I'll take two.
AJ says, haha, I remember my first time using StreamYard. I'm assuming he's referring to my inability to get us back to this. I went through like 3 different screen layouts before getting back to this. So yeah, AJ, you're right on the money if that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So let's go through a couple of the ones that, because we still have some Friday at Fred's available on the site, correct?
Yeah, so actually, in an effort to kind of clear out inventory, I just started a whole new deal.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys, so you talk about those bourbon guys. Those bourbon guys, Ryan and AJ, have now come on to Storytime. They're a part of Storytime now.
Yeah, I saw you on their show the other day.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
nice.
I need their help, right? So I needed help. Those guys are we're kind of cut from the same demented cloth, so I thought this might work well. We'll see how it goes. But they're both fantastic. But anyway, so we got together, and as part of kind of trying to get things rolling, and they're going to really take over the Authors Guild and kind of manage that piece of it. Really is my intent, because it needs
Okay,
a
so
certain
it's
amount
actually
of
coming on board with the whole operation.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
And so as a kind of a way to kick things off, we've got a couple things going. They did a pick with Conviction bourbon. So we've got that and a Port Night. You can get both of those for $99.99 right now and free shipping.
Wow.
So it's just $99.99.
Having some Port Night. Seriously good.
So
and that bottle,
I have Port Night in the glass right now.
Yeah.
And so we've had all these. We've reviewed all these. And they're all fantastic. The Port Night, and I'm going to have to compare it to the Port Night Rises again, because I've only had that the one time that we reviewed it.
It's very grapey in a good way.
Fruity, grapey, like great big league chew.
Yeah.
Along with what's the proof point on this one? 110. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's
this is
just
a great
these are
spot.
fantastic.
Yeah.
If you're at all like finished bourbons, if you're looking for that good finished note, I mean, this just works well. It doesn't carry any of that kind of. Sometimes you get a bit of a mustiness that goes along with the wine finish barrel if the barrel, kind of imparts that. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and that's a good one, because they're all grain to glass distillery. Even the port wine is their port wine. So they use everything stays within their own. There's kind of a, what do you call that? A supply chain, a vertically integrated
Yeah.
So we do have to correct something that's in the chat real quick.
Okay.
No, Sean, it's Conviction and Port Night.
Yes, it's a
He was
Conviction.
asking if we were doing Friday at Fred's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, and
Bad Axe Bourbon is in the house.
we are desperately low on Friday at Fred's. I'm down to 4 cases.
Okay,
and
how many in a case?
12.
12 in a case. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
But we don't know how many you sell in a day. I mean,
Yeah,
So,
I mean, there.
four-
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so 4 cases left. So the people watching, I'm telling you, these are fantastic bourbons, and we've been reviewing these and talking about how great they are. This is our first time having Shane on, so we're not just blowing smoke here.
yeah, I totally agree.
And these bottles definitely have a reputation within at least our little ecosystem of Whiskey Tube,
Yep.
the shows that we're kind of in contact with. And so, again, for the $10 a month, you're supporting essentially a startup distillery, correct?
Correct.
And so that in and of itself is awesome.
It's awesome.
Kind of think of it as like, the people that support us on Patreon, there's some bonus content there and stuff like that. But then it's also sometimes just to support, hey, I realize that you guys are putting a lot of effort into this and whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you're supporting Storytime in the same way. And the reward you get for that is that's the only place you have access to these bottles. And they're fair priced. And especially if you're throwing them out with no shipping.
Yeah,
I mean, that's fantastic.
Yep.
Now, we haven't had the Conviction. Is that one fairly new?
Yeah, so
I
that's
didn't
one
see that on the site before.
It's there. It's the TBG, which is just those bourbon guys. Bushwood Invitational pick, they called it. So they went up to Conviction Distillery and picked that. It's phenomenal. Like it is a phenomenal bottle for what it is. It's a $43 bottle. And it's freaking good. It's got a crazy clover honey note to it that's just really fantastic. But the other part of that is for every bottle you buy, you get 1 entry. If you buy that 2-pack that I just talked about, you get 3 entries. And if you buy a Fred's and a Port Night Rises, I think you get 5 entries. And if you buy all 4 bottles, which would be that 2-pack and the Friday at Fred's and the Port Night Rises, you get 10 entries into
crazy.
A giveaway. I found one of these bottles back in the warehouse, and we're going to give it away. I think on AJ knows the date. He's in chat. I think it's September 15th. We're going to stop so it's from now until September 15th. All those entries get you a chance to win that bottle, which is literally probably the most sought after bottle that we put out, with the exception of maybe the first rye, which was Kingslayer, which was what the hell is the name of that place? I can't even remember. The one in Wisconsin, Driftless Glen.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So Driftless Glen. So that, and again, and that's in an effort to clear out inventory. I'm trying to get these bottles that I've got left over out. We want to make way for the new. I've got this bottle that we're alluding to on Facebook now. There's a couple bourbons that we've got our sights on. I'm trying to get all that worked out. So before I can really do that and get those next bottles to you guys, I'm kind of going to clear some of this inventory out. So we're trying to incentivize people to get these great bottles that when they're gone. You won't see them again. And Friday at Fred's, I think, is going to go down.
I'm not trying to be rude. I'm actually placing an order right now.
Yeah, I was just going to look over. I was like, what the hell is he doing on his phone? He's ordering bottles. So, yeah, if you're in the chat, and like everybody in the chat that I've seen that are channels for the most part, I think has had this. Whiskey Wars, obviously, Bobby, Bourbon School said he joined the first time he heard of it.
Yep.
And yeah, these bottles are fantastic. Like I said, if shameless promotion here, although we are on our own channel right now, go check out our review of the Joseph Magnus, what was it, batch number 187, I think?
Something like that. It was only maybe a month ago. I mean,
yeah, it was within the last month and a half or so.
And Joseph Magnus is really good. I really, really like cognac finish.
Yeah.
However,
this is a total spoiler bottle for that.
It totally is. Like, it's way underpriced.
Yeah. And it's, Greg's buying 4 cases. Hagen AZ is here.
Well, there goes the inventory. I guess we're out.
Those bourbon guys have got it right. Buy them before we buy them all ourselves, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we definitely stand by our reviews of these. These are fantastic bottles, so definitely go check it out and go get some. I'm going to move on to the Port Night Rises. That's what I'm drinking right now. And I mean, so now this is a Jeppson's. Yeah, it's a 6.5-year bourbon, 8 months in their estate port, and I like the Starlight port a lot. But I will tell you, I personally think this one curb stomps it. I just think this is on another level. Yeah. I mean, it's 2 years older. It's just a
118
phenomenal
proof.
Yes.
Yep.
That helps.
It's a really good spot. It does.
It's 118, you just said?
Yeah, it's a different type of grape, though. Like, it really drinks as a drier, more red fruit, as opposed to the kind of Concord grape of the Port Night, which I really like. But this is a more complex wine.
What did you want?
I'm good for now, thank you.
Okay.
So, yeah, the Port Night Rise is really interesting.
Yeah.
So we just started seeing Jeppson's up here not that long ago. I think maybe the bottom shelf one was available, but I'm starting to see store picks now.
Really?
Of Jeppson's, yeah. So I've seen it at a couple of stores. So you said Starlight is their grain to glass. So this is actually their distillate, Starlight's distillate?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah, everything about that bottle is Starlight. The port wine they used, the barrel, is their port wine.
So we don't get Starlight in Minnesota either. And so this was actually our first experience with it. We've never had any of the other ones. Have we had a sample from someone or anything?
I don't remember it, but I mean...
But I think this is the only one. And given that it's a craft distillery that's doing their own grain to glass distillation, that's pretty incredible for something to turn out that good, because that's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Although we've had some really good luck with some small distilleries recently.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I love what some of these smaller distilleries are doing. And
totally agree.
What has really changed kind of the industry is this last year was really the year of store picks, right? That's when it really came on strong. And I think that's changing the dynamic so that a lot of the taterism that has kind of taken over or that
really
consumed us has died down
What's
now
that?
Because people are more excited about these single barrel offerings. because you get, I heard somebody talking earlier. I think it was, I don't remember. But anyway, Russell's, I think it was on Sean's pick channel earlier. You get some of these Russell's picks, and I've got some here that are just.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're on another level. And to me, that's where these craft distilleries have an opportunity to really come in and shine, because they can let that single barrel or two really come into its own and not be forced to do this batching thing where you kind of have to mute notes and things like that. So.
Yeah, for sure. This is outstanding. So we've had a couple of people.
All right, so John says that Starlight is available in Wisconsin, and
so that's,
we're not that far from the border.
Yeah, we can get to Wisconsin in an hour.
Yeah.
Steve Joes is in the house. He said couldn't resist, just ordered the special. We actually bought a bottle of Friday at Fred's and sent it to Steve, and he signed up.
Oh, that's awesome.
So now he just picked up, ordered the special, so that's awesome.
Yep.
Bobby at Bad Axe Bourbon says, I picked Friday at Fred's second in a 4-way blind against 3 Joseph Magnus cigar
I was watching
blends.
that live stream he did.
All sub 100 batches. And to be honest, it was a toss-up for first and second. Great juice. Yeah, that's what I keep hearing from everyone, and that was our experience as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so for the 65 for the Friday at Fred's, which these are both Friday at Fred's, there's just a different label on each side.
Yep.
So could you actually explain a little bit, because I have been in some live streams on Sean's channel at Whiskey Wars, like, comment, subscribe, where I think, is it these guys that are on there? That the terrible technical setup that everyone's always kind of ribbing them about a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So those guys they're out of New Orleans area. And I got to meet them. I was working down there at the NASA facility right outside of New Orleans. And one of them had won a bottle that I gave away. And I think it was an Antique 107. Doug did. Doug won a bottle. And so I was like, well, hey, I'm like in the area. I can just come and drop it by. And of course, it took me forever to finally get it there. But they invited me over there to hang out on a Friday at Fred's evening. And just salt of the earth people. These are, you are not going to meet a better group of people than the people that are at Fred's on Friday. They're just unbelievable. They immediately made me feel welcome and like family and
Southern hospitality.
Oh man, to the nth degree, just to the nth degree. So when I came across that bottle, and I knew it was a cigar type of a pour, and immediately what comes to mind is Fred, because Fred he's always smoking cigar. And so I just was like, in homage to them and gratitude of how they made me feel, I couldn't help but kind of memorialize that friendship and that relationship, because they truly epitomize what Storytime was about, right? That whole community. So I was like, this is the perfect bottle to put them on. So yeah, that's if you ever get a chance to hang out with those guys, do it. They're just great people.
So I'm assuming you sent them a bottle.
Oh, they've got more than, dude. Those jokers, they've bought so many bottles.
If you can see, that's them on the bottle. So I'm assuming that's Fred in the front there with the beard, and then who's the feller in the background there?
Doug, the one that's in chat. Doug H.
Oh, Doug H. Oh, okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
I didn't know we had a celebrity in the chat here.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. All right.
They're brother-in-laws.
Okay, cool. Well, it's a cool bottle, because when you sit this on your shelf, it's got a very Pappy Van Winkle vibe to it.
It does.
And I love that.
A little bit of a Julian Bim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I dig it.
I may have had fun doing the artwork on that one.
Yeah, that's great. So you're moving on to the cigar blend. So these the Port Night and the Port Night Rises are very different. Obviously, they're from different distilleries.
Yeah, the base bourbon just is so different.
Yeah.
I don't know that I actually have a favorite between the two. I think these are two different occasion pours.
I agree.
But I don't think that one's actually better than the other. But I absolutely, on the regular Port Night, I love that grapey fruit note on there so much, and you don't find that on a ton of other things. You get that a little bit on a lot of other port finished bourbons and maybe some cab finished bourbons, but In this one, it's very bold, but it's not overwhelming. It balances really nice.
Yeah.
But I would say it's the prominent flavor. It's a very fruit-forward bourbon with this nice dark kind of undertones to it. And I just love it. I think it's great.
So I always wonder when you get a finished bourbon, like a flavored coffee or anything like that, is it a bad product that they're trying to save with flavoring or finishing? Mm-hmm. And clearly with all of these, it's not bad bourbon. Like they started with a good bourbon and then they're finishing and it shows.
Yeah,
Well, like you said,
can
the
tell
base
difference.
bourbon is fantastic.
Yeah. There are a lot of distilleries that have done that because they're like, hey, we don't have 6, 7, 8-year-old stocks, and everyone's buying now. We need to get bottles on the shelf, so let's start throwing them in Armagnac and Amburana and all this. Just anything to kind of fight that harsh youth, bitter tannin. So, but that is definitely not the case. With the Jepsons especially. I mean, that 6.5-year Jepson 21% rye is right in the sweet spot when that stuff really starts coming in nicely. I would say that 6.5 to 12 year is kind of really the sweet spot. You get a few that go outside of that are fantastic, but it's very few because it goes bitter real quick. And then Starlight's just, it's a 4.5-year-old bourbon, but it drinks like an amazing, well-matured bourbon.
There's nothing youthy about it. Is this MGP juice then, I believe?
It is.
I hope it is because we've certainly been saying it.
Yeah, it 100% is.
Okay. So what we've found, and we've talked about this in a few reviews, I believe in these and then, some of the Doc Swinson stuff. Yep. MGP can do amazing stuff with even a 5-year bourbon.
Great.
It seems like they are the Doc Swinson's just the regular blender's cut. Yeah. It says, just aged to bottled when ready or aged when ready. Right. And it's like a 5-year bottle, but it's fantastic. Yep. Like MGP, I don't know if it's just the climate in Indiana is just right on that border of being farther enough south where it's a little warmer all the time and far enough north where it's a little too cold all the time and they're in the sweet spot. Yeah. But we've had some products there that are just fantastic. Starting at 5-8 years and going up.
I think, how long we've done this channel? Or I've been collecting for a few years.
Yep.
4 or 5. And I started out thinking MGP type stuff was kind of pass it by. Like I kind of ignored source stuff. And I was wrong about that.
Totally. Yeah, me too.
And so, several years ago, I discovered, MGP has some really good stuff.
Well,
and now I seek it out. Like I'll pick that over a lot of big brands.
Yeah.
Because they're doing interesting stuff with it.
And when I first actually got into bourbon, when I first heard about sourcing, I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Exactly. So you can just start a bourbon company, put your logo on it, and then buy it from somebody. You can buy it from Dickel or from another 1790 Barton and throw it in your bottle and then call it your bourbon. Sure. Because back then I was, when you're new to bourbon, I was interested in the BS story on the back. And I was like, oh, this guy, this came from his great, like you said, the recipe was in his grandfather's boot. Well, this must have like some heritage behind it. And, and then once you learn about what sourcing actually is, like, companies that don't try to fake their way through the stupid story.
No, they let somebody else faking their way through.
Yeah. And they're transparent about, we're sourcing, but we're also buying barrels and picking single barrels or buying barrels and finishing them then in stuff and buying batches and blending. There's a lot that goes into.
Totally.
It's not just, Jack Daniel's makes good whiskey, so I'll buy a barrel from them, put it in my bottle with my logo on it, and sell it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like Jack Daniel's.
Yeah, for sure. So but these are definitely different for sure, and I'm liking them both.
Yeah. So I'm going for it now. I'm going for the Friday at Fred's. I think for the last year, maybe a little bit more, has been this trend to have cognac cask finished bourbons. Or at least that's when they were like being available and released around here. Mm-hmm. I like this trend. I happen to really like cognac.
I
don't have very many of them on the shelf. Kind of a strange market.
I don't know that I'm into cognac, but I like cognac finished.
But I definitely
whiskeys that I've had so far.
I definitely like the cognac finished bourbons.
Yeah. Maybe you should really start a channel or something with your back and forth. This says try Old Smooth Ambler Old Scout 10-year single barrel cask strength.
For you to write, you're not wrong. Yeah, those old scouts were just, and a lot of people walk by them. Didn't even know what the heck it was.
Yep. Yeah, we've only had one. We saw one. It's not
I don't think it was the
super common.
10-year cast.
No, it wasn't the 10-year. It was just the basic one. I picked it up in North Dakota.
Yeah, we've had a couple of Smooth Ambler.
Oh, that's right. You had one too.
Yeah.
A different one.
So I did put out bottles. I think before you guys were around, it was also Jepson's. It was called Twins,
Yes.
and it was two
That's
bottles.
kind of on my to-do list.
Yeah. So I've only got a
still
few
available?
of those. I have like 4 or 5 of those left.
Okay. Of
Set.
each, I'm assuming? 'Cause-
Yeah, of each. Right.
Okay.
I sell them in sets because that's the way I kind of put it together. When you hear the story, you'll understand why. Those barrels.
Yeah, explain that because I've brought this up on the channel before, and I've said it during videos when we've reviewed your stuff. I always bring that up because I think it's one of the coolest things, and I'm meaning to hop on and pick one of those up.
They're like 3 or 4 barrels apart. I think it was. Could be maybe 5, but anyway, they were that only a few barrels apart in the fill, right? So you distill, you fill a big tank, and then you take from the tank and you start filling all your barrels up. Right? So you have a distillation run, goes into a tank, then that sits for a minute, and then while that kind of does what it does, then you go from that tank and you start filling barrels. So those barrels are like 4 or 5, like I said, apart, and they aged less than 10 feet apart from each other. Right?
In the same
So are they single barrels or are they barrels from the same batch?
They're single barrels.
Okay.
2 different barrels though, because there's 2 different bottles.
2 different barrels. One was, I don't know, 6 feet high. The other one aged at like ankle level. And they were like about 10 feet apart from each other.
Okay.
So, and the whole idea was...
People are going to snag them before you're even able to get off the stream.
I know. Well, those bourbon guys said, there's none left, Shane. Quit telling people there are. Me ordering the rest right now.
It's straight bourbon. It's also it's 6.5 year, 21% MGP rye. But the what I wanted to show and the purpose why they called it Twins is they have the same pedigree, but they are night and day different. So it totally reminded me of that movie from the 80s, Twins, with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. So, maybe it was the 90s. I don't, whatever it was. I'm old, so it could have been 90s.
It was the 90s, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thanks. Anyway, I seem to remember when I was a kid, which was the 80s, but anyway. And it just reminded me that, right? So they're the exact same genetically, but they are at opposite ends of the spectrum. One tastes very old. It's not crazy dimensionally. Like there isn't like a ton of flavor going, like a ton of different things you got to navigate, but it's very good and it has a really good finish, and that's ST3. And then ST1 is more spice, more palate activity, more stuff going on in the middle there. And it's just a real neat, like for people that are getting into bourbon to have those bottles and see that really the true effect on bourbon happens in that barrel and not like we can get into mash bills, we can get into yeast, and that's all fine and well. But what happens in that barrel ultimately determines what comes out.
What's the difference in proof between the 2 barrels?
I think they're almost the same.
Oh, really?
Sugar Kitty says Twins was 1988. Is there anything he doesn't have the info on? He's like young Jamie from Rogan.
I don't know what that means.
Well,
anyway, for those of you who listen to Joe Rogan, you know Jamie.
He's
just like the information machine.
It was 117 and 118.
Yeah.
So is that cask strength on both of them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Everything
differing in proof even?
Yep.
Sugar Kitty's got the info on that too.
Yeah.
So,
he's all over. We should have gone to our fact checker.
Yeah, exactly.
We probably could have just had Sugar Kitty on instead of Shane, and he would have had just as much information.
You're not wrong. I actually got to talk to Sugar Kitty earlier today. So.
Oh wow!
Did you? Nice.
Yeah, I hadn't talked to him in a while, so I gave him a call.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a great dude. We had him on here he taught us a bunch about Scotch one night, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's the whole Twins thing is really one of the coolest ideas I've heard.
I love the idea, and I like how different they are.
Yeah.
We haven't had them obviously yet.
And
Are
and
those
the-
are those bourbon guys? Are you being? I'm not sure which one is commenting under those bourbon
that's
guys.
Ryan.
Okay, Ryan, is that true? Are these gone? Because I may have to just hop on here and get one.
Yeah, do
No,
it.
they're not gone.
Real
He
quick.
didn't order them.
Okay,
He's lying.
entertain the internet while I do this real quick.
So now Ben's gonna have to sign in to Storytime.
Yeah.
I love the ST3.
Yeah.
So,
I love them both, and actually, the blend of the two is phenomenal. It is.
well,
really,
wait a minute. There's only one channel on the internet that does blending.
Yeah, that's
Oh shoot!
so speaking of blending, we do have a new all right, hold on.
Go and finish.
It's screwing me up here, so I'll get to it after the show.
Oh, okay.
We do have, for those of you in the chat, we do have a new show, Patreon only, where I do the little spinning wheel. I uploaded my entire bourbon collection to the wheel, and then I've got one wheel that has 2, 3, and 4. So I spin that to find out how many bourbons we're blending, and then I spin the wheel to pick which bourbons to blend, and then it's just a show or whatever the wheel says to blend.
Now, did you actually add everything that you own?
Pretty much, yeah. I left out a couple of weird
Like the
stuff that
Tabasco, George Dickel Tabasco?
I think.
Oh
I might have
God!
put
Please
that in
put
there.
that on the wheel. Put that on the wheel.
If I don't have that,
And then,
yeah.
So, okay, how about the George Dickel Tabasco and Weller 107?
I'm sending
that
you a
might
bottle. I'm sending you a bottle of Malort. And you got to
So
put
we
it on
actually
the wheel.
have one on the way.
We have a
it
sample
on
on
the
the way.
wheel,
I have
my
no
friend.
idea. I have
Yeah.
no idea what it is. I've never really heard of it, but people have made reference the last few weeks. So someone, I forget who, someone's sending us a sample bottle. Maybe a full bottle, who knows?
So what I did was I put Knob Creek single barrel, but not each single
Gotcha.
barrel.
Sure.
Kind of
Fair
stuff
enough.
like that.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, I have I didn't put any scotches in there. It's mainly bourbon.
Okay.
So I don't know if I put the Dickel Tabasco, but that should be a wild card.
It should, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And like that wild turkey spice, which they don't even make anymore.
You know what I could do? I could just put a wild card spot on the wheel and then make a separate wheel of all the flavored whiskey and then see.
There you go. One of these weird ones. And you
Yeah.
could even do that marshmallow vodka.
But if you put wild card on there, you've got to put it on there at least 6 or 10 times. If there's a high probability you're going to hit a wild card.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
for sure.
So I think it was Steve, and so it must be sitting right over there. There's a Malort.
Oh, so Steve Joe's. So the Malort
Right.
sample is it's sitting right there.
Right off camera. So
Well, I was saying earlier, Steve, you were in the chat, but maybe you left your computer or whatever. But I haven't done an unboxing video of that yet because we were talking about maybe just doing an unboxing and a tasting of all those live because I think there's some world whiskeys in there. Steve, while we've got you here, is the Icelandic whiskey, is that the sheep dung one? Was that Steve that was going to send us that, or is that Sugar Kitty?
That sounds
I think
amazing.
It was Steve. It does. And there's also a sweet potato whiskey. Maybe Steven was talking about that.
And yeah, and you're interested in that because you love
I
sweet
really
potato.
do like sweet potatoes, yes.
Well, and I love sheep dung, so I mean,
It's cyanide.
I guess.
Yes, Kitty.
Okay, so yes, it is. And we did have this conversation before.
Oh, Floki's. Yeah, that's right. All right.
Okay, yeah, so Sugar Kitty doesn't even have the bottle, but has the information. For the love of God,
Bro.
this man is unstoppable.
Yeah.
We need to just have Sugar Kitty just having him in the chat,
Yeah,
at
it's
all
amazing.
times. We should just have him on speakerphone every time we record a review, in case we get something wrong. It can be corrected in real time.
He needs to be your Alex Trebek for your game show.
Yeah, for
he's
sure.
the guy.
Well, does he have a blue leisure suit though? That's the question.
I
he's
would
got
almost
two.
guarantee
He's got
you he
two.
does.
I'm sure he does as well.
He's
Hanging
at
easy,
least
so
10
she-
years older than me. He's for sure got a blue jersey.
He's got one. So Shane, but before we wrap up here, we usually go about 6 to 7 ish. So we still got a little bit of time here. One thing Greg and I talked about at one point is doing a kind of like a show where,
Where
remember
we
I
go
brought
over
this up, I'll tell you.
Okay.
About doing like a whiskey tube show where we'd like have another whiskey tuber on.
That's
and just
what we're doing.
Well, I'm getting there. And kind of interview them, which
That's
is kind of
kinda
what we're doing.
doing.
But, we do this with other channels.
That's kind of what we're doing.
Right, but Shane doesn't really have a channel, although you do have a couple of great music videos.
Yeah, I got to put a couple
that
out
are
there.
Fantastic. Is that you actually singing the Chris Isaak song?
I do everything. Play.
That's amazing. That's a great
the
cover of that song. You did a really good job. Tipsy Whiskey is here. And that is the pool. I thought I recognized that. There's no bottle of Old Carter back there, but
yeah.
But no. So what?
There.
One of the things that I was thinking about, because we were kind of thinking about having other channels on just to talk about their channel and learn things that you may not know about them just from watching their reviews.
Sure.
Because if you don't watch all the reviews, you may not hear a lot of the stuff. And so one of the things that I was kind of thinking of is having like a few questions that I ask all the different channels. These are just questions I'm curious about. And so if you wouldn't mind being the guinea pig on this, Shane.
Oh, please. But just know I've got a couple questions for you guys, too, when you're done.
Perfect.
Well, unfortunately, we've
got our lawyer standing by telling us what to say and what not to say. Okay, so here's a couple of the questions, and it's just like 2 or 3.
Okay,
and this is maybe the most important one right off the bat.
I have to look up something real quick.
Okay.
Entertain the internet.
Do you think whiskey tastes different outside?
Yes.
I wish I had the soundboard up. I would give you the correct answer because that's been a thing for me always, and I've heard very, very 50-50 on. But I think like doing a review of a brand new whiskey I've never had and doing it outside is virtually pointless for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a completely different experience.
I would agree. You have a whole different set of things affecting your olfactories when you're out there. Like even here,
Totally
it's
agree.
okay. But if I go out there and drink, it's a different animal, for sure.
I agree. Yep.
I don't think he has always agreed with me. He's coming around.
I don't think it's as big a deal. Like, I'm okay with being outside and drinking a whiskey for the first time. Mm-hmm. But yes, I do think that you have different influences and so on.
Well, I think it comes down to like there's a humidity in the glass, sort of. So we don't drink a lot of whiskey outside in the dead of winter in Minnesota, so it's usually in the summertime.
Yeah.
Well,
Just the fresh air in the glass, it's a completely different experience.
Here's another thing you can do to test that theory. Throw a glass in a fridge, a Glen in a fridge, and a Glen in room temperature, and pour an ounce in each one and drink them. And you're going to see a difference. It's going to taste different. Why would the cold make it taste different? Well, it's because you're not getting the aroma, the bouquet. So that tells you that olfactory is having a major effect on how you taste whiskey.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, awesome. We're off to a great start here. And I think I was trying to think of a couple of questions, and I had them, but I don't have them written down. But I know the next one right off the bat that I can think of that I want to ask everybody that we talk to. How much do stats on a bottle mean to you? As far as, is there a level of
detail?
Well, proof and age. Is there a level of like how much you'll pay based on like this is a 2-year 80 proof whiskey and it costs $75.
Huh.
Is there a point where stats don't matter? Because I mean, like, you can get 5-year MGP. That's fantastic. We've had some 4-year bourbons that are absolutely great. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, Greg and I say that if you're lacking age, having a little more proof can help with that, and if you're lacking proof, having a little more age can help with that. And some people say, stats don't matter. It's just how it tastes. But like I look at it, at some point you got to give me something in the stats to warrant the price point. What do you think of that?
If it's a whiskey I've never had before, then yes, right?
Smart ass.
if I walk into a store and I'm like, hey, I want to buy a new bottle, and I'm perusing the stats on the bottles. If it's nothing I've had before, but it's a 80 proofer and it's, what, I don't even care what age. If it's 80 proofer and it's over $60, I'm going to be very cautious. And I'm going to be like,
totally
I
agree.
would probably go try that in a bar first.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's something, and if I go in and I see a non-age statement, which usually tells me it's under 6 years, and it's $85 or higher, I'm probably not going to buy it unless I've had it. So
sure,
I guess that's kind of how it would. Like if I've had it and it's good, great. But I probably wouldn't commit to buying the bottle until I've had it. There are exceptions. There are certain things where you have people that you trust that their palate is something exceptional, and you'll take a gamble. But it's very few, very, 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 very few would I do that with.
Okay.
The reason I thought of that one is because so the Remus Gatsby, which is like a damn near a $300 bottle, which I will say, and I know that this doesn't really matter with the whiskey inside, the bottle and the packaging alone is damn near worth a $300 for me because it's just that cool.
Yeah,
that's one of those ones where I would almost buy that just based on the bottle.
Totally.
Usually when you buy based on the bottle, the whiskey inside is trash.
Oh, yeah, it's garbage.
Because you get the fancy bottle like that H. Derringer with the gun in the thing or whatever.
It's horrible.
I mean, but you're paying for all the accoutrement, right? You're not paying for the whiskey. That whiskey is garbage.
Exactly.
You're paying for bells and whistles. Now, that whiskey, the Gatsby, is cask strength at 90-some proof.
MGP, right?
I think Remus. So. Yeah, I think they're all MGP, aren't they? And I know that it was a lower distillation proof, like it was a lower proof going into the barrel.
Yep.
And so apparently, I've heard from reputable sources that it's fantastic.
Yep.
And I know it's high age too. I don't know what the age statement is on it. But I had commented one night in a stream I was watching, Bourbon Bites, and he was tasting some whiskeys, and he busted out a sample of the Remus Gatsby, and I had commented, and I just said, I just don't know if I can bring myself to
George
pay
Remus.
$250 to $300 for a 90 proof bourbon, regardless of what it is. I just don't know if I can bring myself to do it. Mm-hmm. And somebody had commented back and just said, proof is not an indicator of taste. And it's like, well, I mean,
I would agree. But
if you like high proof stuff, then it is.
but there's exceptions to that, and the exceptions are,
of course.
So, for instance, I've got one of my favorite bourbons that came out this year is that historic barrel entry from Woodford.
Oh wow!
They proofed it down from, I think it went in at 98, 96, something like that. It's proofed down to 90.4, and it is phenomenal. And that's $150 bottle. I've got a 43-year-old.
We did a review of that.
Oh, go ahead.
A couple months ago, I snagged a bottle of that, and I was kind of like, it's all right. It's slightly different than the regular Woodford, and I kind of came to the conclusion, like, I don't know if it's $130 worth it. And then I went and revisited, and I put the two next to each other again, and that one, I feel like I'm alone on an island. Well, you kind of agreed too. But I feel like I'm alone on an island of that where, like, I could just be as happy buying regular Woodford.
Yep.
But everybody else seems to love it.
Yeah.
So, regular, I would say because of the proof, you're probably right. However, the thing about that is if your palate is clean enough when you get into it, it is a lot more of a ride than Woodford. Woodford's very one-dimensional. That historic barrel entry is all over the place, and it's got a lot. And the other one I would compare it to,
experience with it.
I have a Canadian club, a 43-year-old Canadian club, and it's like it's 80 proof, right? So it's freaking water. It has, but if I start off with that and I have a clean palate, oh my gosh, the flavor that's going on in there is unbelievable. But if I drink anything else before I drink that, it's lost because there's just no proof.
That could have something to do with it because the first time we did it, I was like, yeah, there's a difference, but I just didn't see a $100 difference between the two.
Sure.
And then the second time I did it, it was a Patreon only video that I filmed after my wife and I had been out having drinks, and she went to bed a little bit. So I was about 40% sober when I did that other video. So that's the other kind of fun stuff you can find on Patreon.
Yeah.
But so when that guy said that proof is not an indication of flavor, it's like, well, it certainly affects the flavor. And that doesn't mean it's going to be a good or a bad whiskey, but it certainly affects the flavor.
I think so.
that's like saying age isn't an effect in the flavor. Well, of course it is. Now, you can have a 4-year whiskey or a 10-year whiskey. They can both be great, but it certainly affects the flavor.
I do have another caveat. Let me grab it because it's worth talking about.
Okay.
I think we're going to lose audio soon. I think this is beeping.
It's beeping at you? I
think so.
That's weird. These are fully charged. Well, maybe these just don't last long.
Well, we've gone over an hour before.
Okay. And the thing is, too, is once we lose audio in these, it'll cut the audio. Oh, yeah.
So this is an 86 proof. No, 81 proof. I'm sorry. 81 proof. Wild Turkey, but it's from 2000. I get the laser code. I think
This
it's
is
2018.
the creepiest chair ever. I need to.
Yeah, 2018. And that year specifically, all of the 6 and 8 year stuff was put into the Long Branch. And so they only had older stocks to make the Wild Turkey 101 and the Wild Turkey 81 proof.
Wow.
At 81
nice.
proof, this bottle is a freaking knockout. If you want, I would put this up against any other 80 or sub 90 proof bottle and it will beat the pants off of it. It's just so good. But those are exceptions, right? It's a specific year. They did something different. They used 10 and 12 and 14-year-old stocks for this bourbon. So to your point, lower proof, more age. That's the case in this particular.
It helps.
Yeah, I feel like you got to have one or the other. We have monitors in to hear you, and they're starting to beep at us that the battery's going dead. We've gone the hour, so I think we're going to wrap it up because the problem is once the way I have this set up through my voice meter application is once the audio source that it's broadcasting to, the headphones, dies, it'll cut the audio completely. No one will be able to hear us, either one of us. So, but it's 7 o'clock. We usually go till around 7 anyway.
Thank you so much for joining us. We have learned a ton.
Honestly, thank you guys for having me.
And we've spent some money as well. You talked us into more bottles.
Let me say this. That's never my. I try not to be a big promoter. Like that's not my aim because to me it's a community brand. And if I'm doing my job, the community will talk about it. I won't ever need to, right? So I try.
I was just going to say we do like to promote it because we love these, and I definitely need to get another cigar batch because mine's more than half gone. So I'm going to have to weigh out whether I get another one of these or get the twins or whatever. I'm committed to another bottle I won in a lottery, so that's going to cost me $100 next week. The bourbon budget has just been taking a beating.
I hear you.
Steve Joe's smart ass over here. Not hearing you is a bad thing.
Funny guy.
Let's see. Is there a way to purchase product since it wouldn't allow a membership? It wouldn't allow a membership.
Product since it won't allow a membership. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I saw that he joined. Since it
is that like a refresh thing or something?
It must be. Yeah, Mike, you can email me at Shane@Storytime Distillery. I'll give you my phone information, and we can, if you want to get something figured out, we'll figure it out, buddy.
All right, awesome. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, glad to see people signing up and talking about grabbing bottles. So I won't feel bad if you guys get to a bottle before I get to, but I'm going to try to order something here.
And I know we don't have a lot of time left before the mics in, or the headphones in, but do you want to talk about what's coming up? What's next?
Yeah, so I heard there's going to be another piece of the story that dropped about 2 minutes ago on Facebook. That's going to be that Culebre. That should have posted. Again, I always try to get. I always want to bring exceptional whiskeys. I want to bring exceptional whiskeys to the Authors Guild. That's the whole point. There's only 200 memberships in the Authors Guild. Once that's full, it's full. I'm not taking any more because I don't want to ever have to do a barrel drop and then have to tell somebody they can't get a bottle, right? Like that's not a situation I want to be in. So it's limited.
So how many spots do you have left?
I think we've lost a few, gained a few. I want to say there's probably like 60 spots, maybe 70 spots. Could be plus or minus.
Sign up, folks.
I promise you, especially with AJ and Ryan taking over the Authors Guild, I think it's you're gonna see a lot more engagement. And unfortunately, I just haven't been able to engage everybody. But we have that. We have a couple single barrel straight bourbons. I really want to try and get back to some of the unfinished stuff because I think there's some really good opportunities to show people that straight bourbon unfinished is really fantastic if you can find the right barrels.
Oh yeah, sure,
totally.
And yeah, I mean, there's we got some good stuff coming. So hang in there. And when I start distilling, so where I'm at, this is my bar, right? That's my house, but then this is like a detached bar thingy.
Gotcha.
I host events here. I'm going to try and start doing at least a couple events a year throughout the country because I think the most important part of this is the community, and I want to engage them. I don't necessarily want to do like a big 100-person meetup. I like to keep them about 20 people or less. I really want to get to know you, and I want to talk about, whiskey.
Yeah, totally.
Well, if you can find someplace warm to do it in the winter.
Well, he's in South Carolina.
We're always itching to get the hell out of here once it gets to be, 20 below.
November, I'll be doing another, what we call a slammering weekend right here. So here, maybe. Is that the right one?
He's going to do it.
Here it is. Here's.
Oh,
nice.
That's beautiful.
So we just hang out here in the bar and go for it,
Yeah, that looks great. I saw that in the music video.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that and I was like, man, it looks like, because when it panned back, you could see the pool in the background, but when you initially had just the camera on the bar, I thought you were filming at a real bar, like a bar.
Yeah.
His, it's just his.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a private real bar. So, well, yeah, thank you very much, Shane, for coming on. This has been great. It's been good learning a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So now I can't necessarily guarantee you we're still going to get all the information right. So
no promises.
But now you know.
Steve wants us to add Malort and the Dickel Tabasco to the mix.
I've got a bottle here. I'll send you guys.
No, we've got
we got a sample.
Both. Yeah, we have both.
Oh yeah, no sample.
We're good now.
You got to do bottle chugs of that. It's low proof.
I don't know if we can get Malort in Minnesota or not. I guess I've never looked for it.
Of course,
we'll have to figure that out.
I guarantee you, it's in Wisconsin.
Okay.
If you've got,
we got to make a trip to Wisconsin so we get some Starlight.
If you've got Jepson's,
Friday at Fred's is sitting on the shelf. Okay.
All right. Well, we got a sample, so we'll be doing that at some time here soon. But everybody, please go and also subscribe to the channels that have been in the chat here. People have been dropping links.
Yeah.
So do all those things. But go check out Storytime. Subscribe. It's totally worth it. $10 a month. And then like, comment,
just
subscribe to the Bourbon Note as well.
Don't buy the twins until Ben has an opportunity to go order.
Yeah, that may be a minute.
4 or 5 sets of those, so you might want to.
All right, I'll have to look into that. I'll have to check my bourbon budget. Like I said, then I started thinking, it's like, well, then I'll get another one of these, and maybe I'll just do the whole thing. And it's like, son of a bitch, I won a lottery, and I got to buy that bottle. That's $100.
Yep.
Glad I won the lottery, but now I owe a liquor store $100.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
It's been great.
And thank everybody in the chat.
Till next time. See you next time.